Hey guys, welcome back for a quick video today, and what we're gonna do is essentially we're gonna build a preset which will sound like a real bass player. You're wondering how that works? Let's go. I stumbled upon this when I had a lesson with one of my students right here in my studio. And he's a cool guy, shout out to Dennis, and he's making some kind of techno house combination. So we wanted to build a bass line for his track, and we wanted it to sound very organic. So let me show you what we had in the beginning when we didn't really do a lot of stuff yet. So basically, let's have a look at the pattern first. It looks like this, just some different velocity notes, and yeah, we just wanted to have some groove, right? We are also sidechaining through a ghost kick, and so this is what we have. Basically, sine wave and a frequency modulation through another sine wave. Not too special, just giving the sine wave. Like we actually, you know what we're gonna do this video? We're gonna add span here on the top left of the screen so everybody sees it well. And yes, we're gonna have a look at this. Like, this is what a sine wave looks like. And if we add the frequency modulation now, this is what we're getting. Much different. I actually would go to high res also. So here we can see it much better. We still have this low frequency that we probably need to push a little more later in the mix to have enough sub, but still we get some interesting overtones. Like this is not all like just a G, so very interesting overtones, frequency modulation, right? It's always interesting. So that was the idea, but still that sounds very plain. I would say plain is a good word, because yet we don't have our modulations activated. You can see this is all in the back. So let me just put out the hi-hat because it disturbs the listening a little, I would say. And let's add the velocity on the amp first. So this is already like making it come to life a lot, instead of just being like on one layer all the time. We have some kind of movement, like there will be more bass or less bass depending on where we are on the bass line. It still sounds a little like shapeless, but at least there's movement in it, right? So next thing I want to add is this one here, velocity on the A warp, which means the frequency modulation from the sub oscillator. So depending on the velocity, we will now get more or less frequency modulation. And this sounds like this. So what Dennis and I noticed at this point, it's going a little crazy and doesn't really sound like a bass player anymore somehow. Right, so the frequency modulation, the higher it gets, the more you could see that it adds crazy frequencies. Like those ones. That might be a little too much. That's not what a bass player would sound like. What we actually need is like a pluck. We need like a hit that sounds like an actual bass player is playing one of the strings, right? So I talked to Dennis a little bit on how we could add like plucks and transient to a sound, and there was different ideas, like right, there's pitch envelopes, there's closing filters and opening them very fast. Like that would be an idea, for example, to have this very short envelope on a filter. But then again, if your sound doesn't have enough frequencies that can be filtered, there will also not be, like, first of all, the filter won't really have an effect, and second of all, there will not be a pluck because there is no frequencies that can be the pluck. So we came up with this idea to add a super strong distortion to the sound, which will add a lot of frequencies to the sound. That was the idea, right? So basically we have this diode 2. Is it diode? In German we say diode. I have no idea. Anyway, we have this one, It's a very, very strong distortion unit, might be the strongest in whole Serum. And so let me turn off the filter and let me put the mix to maximum. This is what it sounds like. So we still have differences in the overtones because of the velocity over the frequency modulation here, right? But we always have enough overtones to actually get a click, theoretically speaking. Like, we still have to do the filtering process to get the click. So what I do now is I activate the filter again, set it to post, like after the distortion, right? And the mix can go back to where it was. And now in the matrix, the last one I want to activate is the envelope 2 over the distortion frequency, like over the filter frequency here. And I also want to add the dry wet here. So, but actually we can leave that away. Let's first have a listen what this sounds like, only moving the cutoff. So this is much better already. Like, you could actually hear some pluckiness, and there's just not too much of everything, right? So lastly, I also wanted to add a little bit more of the distortion in general. So which is why I wanted, I think actually now that I remember, the workflow was like this. First of all, this was not here, and we had the mix open, and it sounds like this. And it's a little bit too much, so we went back with the mix and had the idea to modulate this also with the envelope, but then it would still be a little too much on the different hits. So our idea was to add the velocity as the aux source. So that means now the amount gets controlled by the velocity. So this may be a little Serum course here. We have a modulation source and we have a modulation destination, right? For example, envelope, cutoff. Envelope moves the cutoff every time a note is played. And then we have an aux source, which essentially controls the amount the envelope will open the cutoff. So usually you would have, where is it? Something like this, which would be the amount, right? And if we add an aux source now, the amount gets controlled by this source. So the velocity will now control how much envelope is actually applied here. And this results in a sound like this. And this is just like the complete opposite of what we had in the beginning. If we put it all back again, right? No movement, no texture, no transients, and now everything is there. And we worked a little more on the sound. I worked a little more on the sound myself, and I figured to get you this preset in the end, which sounds like this. So you will notice it sounds a little more like a bass because there's not too much frequency modulation applied. There's only just a little bit of difference coming through the velocity, but everything else, if you click through the sound, is almost identical. So this sound you're getting for free if you follow the link here in the description. And here, those are 20 bass MIDI files, and those are again for our mentorship peoples. So if you're a part of our mentorship, you can get all of those MIDI files, different bass lines in different keys, right? And you can combine it with the preset or any other preset. And we want to have a listen to some of those MIDIs before we conclude the video. So those were the ones only on the root note. Now we move to the ones that go a little bit through the notes actually. those MIDI files are all ready for you guys, and you will see, like, as I click through them, the velocities are important. The velocities are what actually trigger the interesting stuff within our preset, and this is what you have to keep in mind when you want to make one of those organic bass sounds, that you cannot just have a bass sound as it is and say, okay, I'm gonna play it. You need different modulations to actually make it sound real. Like, you need plucks, but not every like hit can be plucky. Imagine a bass player. He would play, and most of the times he would touch it with like his fingernail, but sometimes he would only touch it with the tip of his finger, which would result in less pluck. They do it on purpose, right? Because some hits should be more upfront and some should be less. And the same goes for the loudness of the sound. Same goes for the like the color, actually. And for sure, timing. Like, what we didn't do, but what we could do here is also, no, we actually did, but not for all of them. Like, for example, here we have the 61/16th swing. So this actually is, yeah, has a good amount of swing. And this will move it even more. If I put it off, you still have all the movement from the velocities, but there's still some movement missing in where the notes are placed. So velocity modulations, different color, different intensities of loudness, different kind of grooves, right? Also the MIDIs are important. And the choice of notes, lastly, is also very important. One basic tip that I want to give you for the end of this video is, and this is why I made 10 of those 20 MIDI files only with the root note. The tip is, the root note most of the times is already enough for a good bass line. And it's much, much easier to write a good song with a simple bass line than trying to find the most complicated bass line ever, because the more notes you will have, the less steady it will feel. And sometimes, like, you just need one note. You literally need one note or two notes. So try this out, make it as easy as possible, make it as organic as possible. Use the preset you get for free. Use the MIDIs if you want to join us, if you're already part of the community. And yeah, sometimes I forget to switch the screens and already start my outro kind of sentences. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this, had a good time, and I would say see you soon. Keep making music.